Tonight, Black Sunday in Kaduna, Borno and Rivers States as gunmen abduct church worshippers, kill police and customs officers in separate attacks. Nigerian Governors Forum says the country is faced with a fierce urgency as criminality attaining reckless and irresponsible proportion. Southeast governors ask attorneys general in the region to work out legal documents for Ibubago to protect the region. And deadly fire tears through Baghdad's COVID-19 hospital after oxygen tank explodes, killing more than 80 people. The string of attacks across the country are not abating. Now it's another day, another attack. Rivers State in the south leads the pack today with the report of the gruesome murder of an unspecified number of policemen and customs officials in an overnight raid at their duty posts, all carried out by gunmen who are still unknown. Kaduna State is still in the news, this time an attack on a church in Chikun local government area, leaving a medical doctor dead and 4 other parishioners abducted. This, they think, is also linked to bandits. Boko Haram terrorists ravaging the northeast, raging terror on communities. The latest victim is Mainok community, which is close to Maiduguri, where they held sway for hours before they were repelled. And the Southeast governors and the Northern Governors Forum have been talking tough over these unending attacks, particularly in Imo State. But we begin in Rivers State, where an unspecified number of police and customs officers have been killed at various checkpoints in a late-night raid. The incident happened last night between Omagwa, Isiopo, Olele communities in Ikwere local government area along the Port Harcourt-Owerri Road. The Rivers State Police authorities say they have launched full-scale investigation into the attack with a view to arresting the perpetrators and bringing them to justice. The area is now calm, and according to the police, there is a reinforced and increased joint patrol on that stretch and other areas in the state by security agencies. Meanwhile, the Area 1 Command of the Nigerian Customs Service in Port Harcourt says 3 of its officers were killed in the attack. A spokesperson for the Customs Service in Rivers State, Jerry Attar, told our correspondent on the telephone that the attack may have been carried out by smugglers.
3 of our officers were killed as of early hour of this morning between 12 to 1 a.m. of today. We received a distress call that there was an ambush attack on our operatives at Ishopo. It's actually a patrol base at Ishopo. They killed 3 of our officers, took away 1 of our AK-47 and also carted away 2 Toyota Hilux. They are actually unknown gunmen as we speak. We don't know who they are. We don't know where they come from. You agree with me that there is a group of hoodlums, banditry, kidnappers who are also looking for means to get rifles. Now that the customs officers, we have made smuggling through the bush and through the seaport difficult. They have resulted into killing security operatives.
From Rivers State to the southeast, where governors of the region have directed the attorneys general of their states to work with the Joint Security Committee set up by them to amend existing laws that would give legal backing to the new security outfit, Ibubago. This is part of decisions reached at the end of their meeting today in Enugu, where they also restated their commitment to the laws banning open grazing in the region, among other critical issues.
It couldn't be busier if you consider the state of affairs security-wise for these various state chief executive officers, the governors. One after the other, the governors of Ebonyi, Abia and the Imo State Deputy Governor arrived at the Government House in Enugu for the Southeast Governors Forum, the second in just 2 weeks. They are joined by the Minister of State for Mines and Steel Development, Uche Oga, former Inspector General of Police Anthony Onovo, religious and traditional leaders. They quickly moved into a closed-door meeting at the Exco Chambers. 4 hours later, they emerged and Mr. David Umahi does the honors of telling us what was discussed and some of the resolutions as touching across the issue of Ibubago and its legal framework.
Southeast governors and leaders reinstated the adoption of a common joint security outfit called Ebubago, with her regional headquarters here in Enugu State, and of course capital of the state. Ebubago will work with police and other security agencies in our operations to protect lives and properties in Southeast.
The leaders also unanimously asked the President General of Ohanaeze Ndigbo to set up 2 committees within 10 days that will engage those who are and have been unfairly treated, and another that will address security of residents of the region and their visitors.
The meeting directed Ohanaeze Ndigbo, President, to immediately form 2 committees. One is Southeast Peace and Reconciliation Committee to engage our people for the peace and security of our people and our visitors, which means they can engage anybody.
The governors reinstated their commitment to the state laws banning open grazing in the region, directing local vigilantes and security agencies to enforce the ban. The attack on the residence of the Imo State governor, Mr. Hope Uzodinma, was also mentioned, to which the gathering condemned in its entirety, with a call on the federal government to fish out the perpetrators. Meanwhile, the religious leaders have thrown their weight behind the Ebubago outfit, with commitment to ensure its goals and objectives are achieved.
We do our best to bring all our people offended over one thing or the other to reason with us and partner with us in moving Southeast and Igbo forward.
Residents of the region have been charged to remain fully committed to the peace, security, and development of the region.
The string of attacks by gunmen in Imo State is obviously a big concern for everyone, not just the Southeast governors. Other governors of the 36 states of the country have also been expressing their disappointment through their umbrella body, the Nigeria Governors Forum. The chairman, Governor Kayode Fayemi of Ekiti State, describes the situation as taking criminality to reckless and irresponsible heights. He sympathizes with Governor Hope Uzodinma over the attack and calls on all good citizens to cooperate with the nation's security forces and the government in trying to build a civil, safe and secure environment for other citizens. His words: "For those behind these crimes, they must understand that they do not have the monopoly of violence. This is taking criminality to reckless and irresponsible heights. All hands must be on deck to fish out the perpetrators of this dastardly act, as in our view, they constitute a small league of persons trying to harm the corporate existence of our beloved country, Nigeria." For the Governors Forum, the only way Nigerians can have a country to call their own is for every Nigerian to forge peace and unity across the nation's divides and shun violence and wanton destruction of property. From the southeast, we move up north in Kaduna State, where bandits attacked a church in Chikun local government area, where they killed a man said to be a medical doctor with the State Ministry of Health. They injured 1 and abducted 4 other worshippers. The church, located in Manini Tasha village, was attacked around 9 this morning by the heavily armed bandits. A member of the church told our correspondent that the bandits, upon their arrival, surrounded the church and started shooting sporadically at the worshippers, who scampered for safety in different directions. The attack has come in less than 48 hours after the bodies of 3 abducted students of Greenfield University in the same local government area were found in the forest. Chikun local government has been under siege by bandits, and all efforts to secure residents have not yielded the desired results. In a similar development, armed bandits invaded Bagoma community in Beningwari local government area of the state and killed 6 indigents. The bandits also attacked Amfu village in Kachia local government area, where they killed a woman. While Governor Nasir El-Rufai has condemned the attack on Haska Baptist Church, describing it as a shocking act of depraved persons far removed from humanity. He has said attacking innocent worshippers who were exercising their natural and lawful right to assemble in worship represented the worst kind of evil. He also sent his heartfelt condolences to the families of the deceased and to the Haska Baptist Church. The Christian Association of Nigeria has condemned the killing and abduction of worshippers at the Baptist Church in Chikun local government area of the state. The Kaduna State branch of the CAN, through its secretary, Reverend Caleb Maji, condemned the attack, adding that the organization is saddened by the development. The association is concerned about the security situation in the country, in particular in Kaduna State, calling on government to take more decisive action in dealing with the situation. We're still in the north. Minok community, a town which is about 60 kilometers from Maiduguri, the Borno State capital, has been attacked by Boko Haram insurgents. Details of this attack are still scanty, but our correspondents gathered that the insurgents set houses and shops ablaze in the town. The attack was, however, repelled by troops who stood their ground and faced the insurgents, killing several of them. Minok is the headquarters of the Kaga local government area of Borno State. Nobel laureate Professor Wole Soyinka has frank words for the federal government. He says it's time for the government to seek help where necessary to regain peace in the country and chart a way forward without using Nigerians as lab rats. Professor Soyinka's statement is in reaction to the killings across the country by bandits and by terrorists who, according to him, have sacrificed and traumatized the country's youth beyond their capacity to cope. He says the country is at war and it's time to stop pretending because the country is at war. The Nobel laureate statement reads in part, "Those who have been proven weak and incapable must learn to swallow their vain pride and seek help. We keep avoiding the inevitable, but that very unthinkable now hammers brutishly on our gates. The blood ransom, arrogantly insatiable. This nation is at war, yet we continue to pretend that these are mere birth pangs of a glorious entity." Professor Soyinka goes on to condemn the practice of blame trade, saying blame laying is for later. Right now, the question of what needs to be done and done urgently is on the table. The Nobel laureate wants the government to put in more effort to stop the killing of youths whom he describes as the future. It has been 12 years since the war against insurgency broke out in the northeast of Nigeria. Appears to be no end in sight yet due to pockets of attacks still being carried out by the terrorist group. The face of intervention is also changing in the theater of war in Borno State, where donor fatigue is gradually setting in. But the United Nations says it is not relenting in its response plan for the northeast, as it's currently targeting the provision of life-sustaining support for about 6.4 million displaced people and host communities.
The United Nations says its response plan for northeast Nigeria aimed at providing life-sustaining support targets 6.4 million displaced people and host communities affected by the humanitarian crisis there. Continuous dependence on food aid is indeed no longer sustainable. 250 women and youth sources from the IDP camps in Maiduguri have been selected to benefit from a livelihood support program. This is to provide durable solutions to their impoverishment, since life must go on.
At the beginning of the conflicts, the insurgency, we know most of the people are getting emergency relief items. Some are giving them shelter, food and other things that they need immediately to sustain them. But in the long run, we see this thing have moved for over maybe 10 years. So at this point, we are looking at how to make the people independent, that they can stand on their own.
Attend to the next person.
The UNHCR, in partnership with the American University of Nigeria, have trained and provided livelihood support to these 250 young men and women. While the number is only a small fraction of the actual affected population, beneficiaries are positive that this will make a difference in their lives.
We came from Konduga. We are in the camp in Muna Garage now. They have given us goats to go and learn trading. We thank God. It will be very useful to me, and I will look after them very well. Anytime they ask us to go home, we will go. But if God doesn't make that possible, we will stay.
I shall be grinding beans, pepper and other vegetables because there isn't any grinding machine around us. I know I will make enough to buy ingredients for myself. That's why they trained us. I am also a farmer. I cultivated beans last year, and now with this support that I got, I am no longer worried.
We will present.
The beneficiaries were empowered with kits for cap making, animal husbandry, trading, amongst others.
In part two, after the break, we have more on security in the Northeast. Plus, how is Nigeria and its neighbors handling regional security in the aftermath of President Idris Deby's death of Chad's death? Our in-house data analyst, Babajide Ogusowo, has some data on that. Join us again. Welcome back. If you just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 live on Channels Television Lagos. A reminder of our top stories. Black Sunday in Kaduna, Borno and Rivers States as gunmen abduct church worshippers, kill police and customs officers in separate attacks. Nigerian Governors Forum says the country is faced with a fierce urgency of now as criminality attaining reckless and irresponsible proportion. Southeast governors ask attorneys general in the region to work out legal documents for Ibubagu to protect the region. And deadly fire tears through Baghdad COVID-19 hospital after oxygen tank explodes, killing more than 80 people. And the search for immediate solutions to reduce fear and restore confidence among citizens is priority. Tonight, Babajide Ogusowo, data scientist and information consultant with Channels Television, is here to share the latest insights. Babajide, great to have you as always.
Good evening, Amaji.
Good evening, and unfortunately we're talking security and all of those deaths have happened in 3 states today. So there does seem to be a widespread spread of domestic crime and terrorist activities. Is there any specific reason for this, and what may be driving this pattern?
The specific reason is we need to look at this criminal situation and this fight against terrorism differently. When we hear about countries such as Afghanistan, Iran, Iraq, Syria, we need to look at what is common to these countries and exactly what is going on in Africa, and it will provide some answers. So I would like us to first of all look at how terrorists operate, because it provides a lot of insights about what exactly is going on. And if you focus and we take a look at how terrorists operate, for instance, in the Middle East, you hear countries like Afghanistan. Here's the truth. Just beside, to the left of Afghanistan is Iran. Borders. To the left of Iran is Iraq, borders, and to the left of Iraq is Syria. In other words, terrorists never stay in just one country. Terrorism spreads. That is the way they operate. Let's look at what is going on in Africa. Sudan. To the left of Sudan, we have Chad, sharing borders. We also have the Central African Republic, and to the left of Chad, Nigeria. Again, I repeat, terrorism never resides in one country. Terrorism operates regionally. In other words, there are 3 ways terrorists operate. They split, they spread, and then they surround. And as long as we keep focusing on terrorism and crime from just a national perspective, we will really never find solutions. We need to understand that terrorism spreads regionally, and even local crime as well. With what we are seeing, it spreads. Criminals never stay in one location. Terrorists as well never stay in one location. That is the way they operate. 3S, the split, the spread, and the surround.
So what is your perspective then on the significance of the Chadian President Idris Deby's death?
Now, we've seen a lot of people talk about the Chadian crisis. But here's the fact, and that is, what is certain about Chad is the uncertainty. And here's what I mean, Amarachi. Listen carefully to what I'm about to tell you. Ever since Chad gained independence, every president that has been elected has either been killed or overthrown. Let's take a look at the 3 presidents and looking at what exactly has gone wrong. President Tomba Baye, Chadian's first elected civilian president, was assassinated in 1975. What do the Chadians remember him for? He was the president that in 1969 conducted an election, even though he was the only one on the ballot. He was assassinated in 1975. President Habre, he spent 8 years as president in Chad. He was overthrown in 1990, However, is currently serving jail time for crimes against humanity, war crimes. And then we face the murder of President Deby this month. He's been president for 3 decades. However, he's been involved in Chad's politics and military operations for 4 decades. What do we see? A murder this month. In other words, like I said, every president that has been elected in Chad has either been killed or overthrown. So what is certain in Chad is its uncertainty.
The uncertainty of a government or the uncertainty of insurgency?
Uncertainty about everything, both politics, both governance, both partnerships. So yes, we see a lot of the military working with the Chadian government and other countries, the multinational joint task force. However, what we've seen is that Chad is facing 3 wars, Amarachi. The first is they are facing ethno-religious wars. The second is they are facing what we call mineral resource wars, and they're also facing land wars. These land wars, they've been fighting for over half a century. And so these are the 3 major wars that they are fighting in Chad. And this is a country that has a large land population, large land area, even though their population isn't much. So we see that it's a tough country to really partner with to be able to find solutions to this war.
And you've already established that, we're also impacted by what's happening around us because terrorism or insurgency also surrounds. So Nigeria is affected, and this is impacting on our own domestic security. Government assets have been attacked this year. We've seen kidnappings. We've also seen avoidable deaths. What are the latest facts that you have?
Now, the challenges with the reports we are getting in Nigeria right now is we see a lot of underestimated and overestimated report. So it's extremely tough to be able to put accurate numbers to this. What an international organization like the Global Database of Terrorism, what they do is they take these numbers on a daily basis, and after auditing it, they release their report. So what is reliable is to look at terrorism activities based on trends. And if we focus on the trends as reported and released by the Global Database of Terrorism in the last decade, and I'm talking about between 2010 and 2019, here's what you'll find. And those patterns have relatively been constant in the last 3 years. They report that between 2010 and 2019, the countries that have had the highest number of deaths due to terrorism, the top 3 countries are Iraq, with approximately 58,000 people killed due to terrorism in the last 10 years, Afghanistan, approximately 52,000 people killed, and Nigeria, from the Global Database of Terrorism, is the 3rd most terrorized state in the world. Now, these facts clearly show that there is a challenge within the country, but this challenge cannot be sorted out by just looking at the insecurity challenges we face from a national perspective. Like the trends have shown, we have to look at how terrorists move and be able to understand that terrorism is actually more of a regional problem than a country-specific problem.
Is that what security forces should focus on?
Here's what we know that the security agencies and the military chiefs are focusing on. If we take a look at how they've been operating in unity. And here's why this is important. Based on research, the greatest way and the fastest way rather for a country to be united is for the military to be divided. The fastest way for a country to be divided is for the military to be divided. The good news is that the Nigerian military today is not divided. What happened and what is going on in countries that are near failed states is that their military leaders are divided. I repeat, the greatest and the fastest way for a country to be divided is for the military to be divided. The good news is we're seeing synergy and collaboration among Nigeria's military chiefs. And so, yes, I agree that Nigeria's greatest assets are the potential youths that need to be engaged. Yes, those are our greatest assets, our population, the youths. But our second greatest asset at the moment right now is that our military is united. Now, even though that is good news, that brings us to the next point, which is how do we then improve and make, like you started with, how do we restore confidence to Nigerians? And the way and the fastest way to do that is to ensure that we re-diagnose the problems. And after we re-diagnose the problems, we then focus on the solutions and implements those solutions. At the moment, the evidence that I see is that the diagnosis of the problems are wrong. If we diagnose the problems better and we then focus on improving the solutions, then more Nigerians will have confidence in the government.
Well, still a lot to discuss here, Babajide, but thanks for, continuing the conversation with us. And I know we'll still be talking about this as things progress. Thanks again for joining us.
Let's diagnose the problems.
Yep.
And I think I'm out of time again.
You are, for now. Wow. Right, so we do have news coming in at this moment. We have reports from Owerri, the Imo State capital, that there is panic in Orji local government area of the state. Residents and commuters are scampering for safety following sporadic shootings and attacks on motorists by gunmen. The Imo State Police Public Relations Officer Orlando Ikoku, who confirmed this incident, says unidentified number of people might have been hit by gunshots, but some who sustained injury at the scene after the assailants left have been taken to the nearest hospital for treatment. We'll continue to track this story. Just again, reports in Imo State capital: panic in Orji local government area. Residents and commuters camping for safety following sporadic shootings by unknown gunmen and motorists on motorists by gunmen. The State Public Relations Officer says people have been hit by gunshots and they're receiving treatments at a nearby hospital. We'll bring you updates on this story as soon as we get them. Despite the 12-year-long conflict, academic activities are now gaining momentum in the University of Maiduguri in Borno State, northeast Nigeria, as well as the accreditation of more courses by the National Universities Commission for the school. In addition, the Tertiary Education Trust Fund has provided funds for the training of over 200 lecturers from the institution.
The University of Maiduguri was created in 1975 as one of the second-generation universities in the country. It is the first in the northeast region. The school has seen the departure of several lecturers in the face of insurgency in the region. To halt the mass exits from the school, the Tertiary Education Trust Fund is providing study funds for members of the Academic Staff Union of Universities. According to an audit of academic staff of the university, 238 lecturers have so far benefited from the study fund, and this is impacting on study in the school. One of the major impacts is the accreditation of more courses for the university.
Most of our programs have been accredited by the NUC. If it were not for the TED fund support in terms of training academic staff, perhaps most of our programs would have got denied accreditation. But we have been able to scale through most of the accreditations.
The VC has assured us that they don't have one incidence of a scholar who has absconded. This is very gratifying. We just want to make sure that all those that we've taken the responsibility to fund have come back to the benefit of the academic community.
According to TET Fund, 1.3 billion naira has been spent on training of academic staff in the University of Maiduguri between 2018 and 2020. Students from the institution are not allowing the insurgency to deter them from the academic exercise.
I thank the TET Fund very much, and I would like to urge them more for them to help us to train more of our lecturers, to send at least, maybe if not possible, all of them abroad for them to study, to be able to come back and equip us and make us the better leaders of tomorrow.
A further 116 billion naira has been expended by TET Fund on 30,000 scholars in universities, colleges of education and polytechnics across the country, and the fund is hoping to do more in the coming years.
Still ahead on the news at 10, Nigeria has the potential to eliminate malaria by 2025. That's according to the Pharmaceutical Society of Nigeria. We visit some communities in the nation's capital, Abuja. Stay with us. Welcome back to the news at 10. The National Drug Law Enforcement Agency, the NDLEA, has intercepted illicit drugs worth over 10 billion naira at the Murtala Mohammed International Airport in Lagos and the Malam Aminu Kano International Airport in Kano. The anti-drug agency released a statement saying that a search was carried out on a cargo from South Africa by its operatives at the Sako import shed in Lagos, where suspected brownish substance concealed inside a red bag was discovered. 6 suspects have been arrested in connection with the crime, and the substance, weighing about 24.05 kilograms, has tested positive to heroin. Another consignment weighing 1.25 kilograms was also intercepted at the airport, bringing the total weight of illicit drugs seized in the cargo to 25.3 kilograms. In a similar development, a drug weighing 36 kilograms meant for export to Manchester in the United Kingdom was also intercepted in Kano State. Investigations are still ongoing to ascertain the true owners of the illegal consignment. Under the amendments to the Broadcasting Code, which the digital switchover will enhance, all adverts for Nigerian-made and consumed products must be produced in the country. That's according to the Minister of Information, Alhaji Lai Mohammed. Alhaji Mohammed told Channels Television's Ladi Akedulale on our current affairs program, Newsnight, that the switchover process, which will kick off in Lagos on Thursday, April 29th, 2021, will benefit the broadcast industry, and that this advert production regulation is already yielding fruit.
When we said that if you go and produce an advert in, say, Brazil, and you want to play, and that advert, we're not saying just an advert, say an advert for a product which is made in Nigeria, which will be consumed in Nigeria. We believe it's not fair that you should allow Brazil or Italy to make it, because it means that you are putting Italians in job, you are putting Brazilians in employment as against Nigerians. And by the way, that you'll be surprised that the amendments are already yielding fruits. We have been reliably informed that as a result of that amendment, a multinational company in Nigeria that was supposed to go and make a production of a product outside Nigeria use Nigerian content and use Nigerian talent, and that the Nigerian talent that they used make 10 million naira, and the model made 5 million naira. So we believe that, and you see, this will also help to improve the skill, the expertise of Nigerians.
You can watch the full interview with Alhaji Lai Mohammed on Newsnight. It airs tomorrow, Monday, April 26th at 9 p.m. right here on Channels Television. Health matters now. The development of a vaccine will be a welcome development in the fight against malaria. That's according to the Pharmaceutical Society of Nigeria, Abuja branch, which considers the rise in poverty across the world as posing difficulty in sanitizing communities. The association also organized an outreach providing some residents of Kano Life Camp Abuja with free testing and treatment as part of activities marking World Malaria Day 2021. Our correspondent Kayla Megwa has more.
Kado Life Camp Village is a mere 10 minutes away from the Abuja city center, and already the dilapidation of this community is in full view. Poor infrastructure in Abuja's suburbs create breeding grounds for mosquitoes causing malaria. This outreach by the Pharmaceutical Society of Nigeria, giving free testing and treatment for malaria infections, is a very welcome development for the residents of this village.
Most people here do just go to a nearby chemist and then get drugs and the rest of them, and they are treating something they are not fully aware of.
The outreach is taking place at the Palace of the Esukado. Despite weekly sanitation exercises in this village, the problem of poor sanitation persists as the population continues to rise.
Now that we have Pharmaceutical Society of Nigeria close to us in Kadoye, the enlightenment is here with us. We are much more aware now that when you are down, you have to go and get tested and then know the exact treatment that you need to take.
According to the World Health Organization, malaria accounts for 60% of outpatient visits and 30% of hospitalizations among children under the age of 5 in Nigeria. The country will require 350 billion naira to fight the disease, and the implementation of a new strategic plan for malaria eradication in the country could cost up to 1.89 trillion naira. And while this is being discussed, 300,000 people die every year from malaria in Nigeria. There's talk in the scientific community on the need for a vaccine to end the deaths caused by malaria worldwide. The Pharmaceutical Society of Nigeria says this will be a welcome development.
Globally, there tends to be, would I use the word, increasing poverty. And the moment you have that escalating, you might not be able to have enough funds to go around in attending to other challenges. So if we have a vaccine that is going to help us to eradicate the spread of malaria, it will be very, very welcome. How soon that will come into place will depend on so many factors.
No matter how many outreaches are done to teach people how to keep themselves safe and protect themselves from malaria, refuse heaps such as these ones litter communities like Kano Life Camp and other communities around the FCT. As long as these heaps stay in places like this, it's almost impossible to eradicate malaria. The call is for the government to do more for communities like Kano Life Camp to ensure that heaps such as these ones, stagnant water and gutters, are cleansed. That way people can actually be safe from malaria. Kayla Megwa, Channels Television News.
Almost 1 year after Gombe State recorded 471 deaths in 3 weeks from heat wave, some health experts have expressed concern over the rising temperature in the state going as high as 44 to 48 degrees Celsius. Residents bemoan the high temperature, describing it as unbearable, especially those who ply their trade under the sun.
In 2020, 471 deaths were recorded in Potiskum, Gashua and Unguru from the heat wave which gripped Gombe State. Summer is here again, and residents lament the harsh weather which is affecting their productivity.
It has affected almost the productivity of all. For instance, taking the university as an institution, where as lecturers we go to class, we meet the students. Even the lecture theaters, the lecture halls are not really conducive for the students. While you are giving lectures, students have been using hand fans to fluid themselves due to the higher amount of sun. And especially at a time like this, we are in Ramadan period, people are fasting, dehydration, people need water, and definitely they don't have they are not allowed by the religion to take water at the moment.
I cannot go out as at the time I want, and when the sun is at its peak, of course I cannot do some of my activities, so it really affects my productivity and other things.
When Channels Television visited one of the largest cemeteries in Potiskum, the attendant reveals the number of deaths recorded is low compared to last year.
A shekarun baya a wancan shekara na azumi an yi mace-mace da yawa, kuma daga mutum 22, 23 zuwa 20 zuwa 30 mun binne a shekaran baya, amma a wannan shekaran da alhamdulillah mun samu sauki rashe-rashe daga sanyi da zafi, wato ana samun bambancin rashi.
Health experts say thousands have died as a result of extreme heat worldwide, but believe precautionary measures can be taken to save lives.
Now it is a period of Ramadan, and then the weather is too hot. We should avoid using of ice pack in our head. You see, some people, they will put an ice pack, they use a very cooled water or chilled water, and then which is it's not good to their health, because the blood vessels, because of the high temperature, it will dilate. So when you put an ice, it will constrict the blood vessels, abruptly, and then it altered the blood supply to particular organ, more especially in the brain.
To prevent further deaths, the state government has advised residents to keep themselves rehydrated and avoid spending time under the sun to prevent heat stroke.
We're staying in Gombe State, but to a different development now. After being under Boko Haram siege for over 48 hours, there has been an exodus from residents of Gaydam, a community in Gombe State that was attacked last Friday. Although the military says it has repelled the attack, killing over 20 insurgents, recovered one Toyota truck and arms from them. Residents told Channels Television that the insurgents hoisted their flags, preaching house to house their ideologies. They called on the federal government to, as a matter of urgency, deploy more troops to recapture the community as lives of the remaining residents are at stake. We turn to a different issue now. The federal government has restated its commitment to resolving the challenges of rising number of gully sites in Gombe State. According to the National Project Coordinator of Nigeria Erosion and Watershed Management, Mr. Salihu Dahiru, beyond resolving the myriad of gully sites in the state, efforts are in place to create earth dams that would accommodate floodwaters from eroded areas. Mr. Dahiru, explaining this during a tour of affected gully sites in the state, acknowledged the efforts of the state government.
The increasing cases of gully sites in Gombe State is becoming an issue of concern. It is for this reason that the National Project Coordinator of Nigeria Erosion and Watershed Management embarks on a tour of affected sites in the state.
The consultant, together with the contractor, came up with a plan to reduce the completion period by more than 50%. It's now down to about 7 months instead of 18 months. That is almost shedding off 60%.
At the moment, there are 4 gully sites in the state, with the biggest spanning 2.7 kilometers, affecting the state's university, Malam Ina, and Kagarawal communities.
Gombe, I want to say, is the second largest gully erosion state in Nigeria, apart from Anambra State. Initially, we submitted about 45 active gullies to the World Bank, and because of time and funds constraints, they were only able to approve 5. So far, we've finished designs of 2. We have already started implementation on 1. This is what we are, where we are today. We will move to the other one that will start soon.
Gombe State government officials explained their involvement in terms of funding, monitoring and planning.
It is with this support that our governor, the Green Governor, would be able to pursue more projects, especially the rest of the 4 sites which are in NUMAP and possibly in another project under the Ministry of Environment, which will be forthcoming, inshallah.
For us, this is not just a project about, taking care of a gully. It is about restoring livelihoods, and this is firmly in line with what is reflected inside Devagom. And Devagom, as you know, is aligned with the Sustainable Development Goals. By the time you take care of livelihood, you're already taking care of Goal 1 and 2 of Sustainable Development Goals.
Although a new map assures that it would complete the project ahead of the rains, as well as begin work on other sites around the state government pledges more support to enable the federal government to match words with action.
Beyond our shores, at least 82 people have died in a fire at a hospital treating coronavirus patients in the Iraqi capital, Baghdad. More than 100 others were injured in the blaze, which erupted at the Ibn Khatib hospital on Saturday night. Reports say an accident caused an oxygen tank to explode, sparking the blaze.
The fire at the Ibn Khatib hospital in the Diyala Bridge area of the Iraqi capital occurred after an accident which caused an oxygen tank to explode. Many ambulances rushed towards the hospital, ferrying away those hurt by the fire. Patients not injured in the incident were also being transferred out of the hospital. The head of the Iraqi Civil Defense Unit said the fire broke out in the floor designated for the Pulmonary Intensive Care Unit. Several victims' families were still at the hospital hours after the fire had been put out, having been unable to locate them elsewhere. An eyewitness who was visiting his brother when the fire broke out described people jumping out of the windows as the fire spread quickly throughout the unit equipped to house COVID-19 patients. Prime Minister Mustafa Al-Kadhimi has blamed negligence and suspended the Health Minister Al-Tamimi pending an inquiry into the blaze. Iraq's healthcare system, ruined by decades of sanctions, war and neglect, has been stretched during the coronavirus crisis. The country has recorded a total of 102,528 infections, including 15,217 deaths.
Meanwhile, India's coronavirus situation is worsening so much that international efforts are underway to help the country as it suffers critical oxygen shortages as well. The UK has begun sending ventilators and oxygen concentrator devices. EU members are also due to send aid. The US says it will provide raw materials for vaccines that had previously been under export controls. As he reflects on the country's handling of the coronavirus pandemic, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi has called on citizens to be vaccinated and exercise caution, saying the storm of infections had shaken India as the country set a new global record of the most number of COVID-19 infections in a day. The number of cases surged by more than 349,691 in the past 24 hours, the fourth straight day of record peaks. Hospitals across Delhi and across the country are turning away patients after running out of medical oxygen and beds.
Last week outside hospitals in
The Philippines' healthcare system is straining under the escalating pressure from soaring COVID-19 cases, which have left hospitals in the capital, Manila, overwhelmed by the influx of severely ill patients. The country reported 9,661 COVID-19 cases on Saturday, raising the nationwide tally to nearly 980,000 cases, including a death toll of over 16,670. In Tunisia, hospitals are running out of ICU beds as COVID-19 cases spike. According to the National Observatory of New and Emerging Diseases, 92% of ICU beds and 85% of oxygen-supported beds in the public hospitals are currently occupied by COVID-19 patients. The Scientific Committee on Coronavirus warned that the health system in Tunisia is collapsing in the face of an unprecedented surge in the number of infections. The health department is trying to increase the number of ICU beds to over 360. Finally, the number of confirmed coronavirus cases in the United States has surpassed 32.04 million as of Saturday, with the death toll exceeding 571,000. This comes as the total number of confirmed COVID-19 cases worldwide continue to climb, surpassing 145 million as of Saturday, including over 3 million deaths. In sports news, the 20th National Sports Festival has finally been concluded as sports followers want the country to consolidate on the gains and correct the flaws. The delayed biannual event was a platform for athletes to secure Olympic qualifications. National records were made and broken and new talents discovered. Once again, Delta emerged champions of the game.
The non-availability of several foreign athletes and a reduced number of participating sportsmen and women due to the COVID-19 pandemic at the Edo 2020 Games did not take the shine off the multi-sports event. Being an Olympic year, it was an opportunity for athletes to seal a sport in the Summer Games.
I wasn't expecting it here because my coach would keep telling me to come here, but I was saying, Coach, I don't want it to come here. I wanted it to be in another competition, like me concentrating on just the 200, so I can be able to make the standard. But I'm so surprised that I came out in my finals, and I'm happy about that.
Others simply use the platform to gain more prominence.
This is a national sports festival that has been watered down a bit because of the effect of the COVID-19, the postponement, several postponement that it suffered and the rest of them. But I think Edo State has been able to give us something close to a spectacle. One thing I like about this competition is that is the legacy project involved. The swimming pool is something that you cannot take away. The tennis courts have been refurbished. And the good thing that they did was to take these facilities to where they are needed most, in schools.
However, despite the positives, the games had its flaws.
Athletes management, like for where athletes are going to stay, no, is zero. Like there wasn't proper arrangement for that, and for transportation, it was like it's really far from where we stay from the stadium. Like me, I had to like stay at the hotel somewhere close to the stadium, so I won't miss my event. So for that, it's a poor one.
Well, I would say the time, keeping the time. They're not really keeping the time at the festival, so they have to keep the time next time.
The next National Sports Festival will be held in the year 2022 in Delta State.
The hosting rights for the 2022 edition has been given to Delta State. It is expected that work would commence in earnest between the Ministry of Youth and Sports Development and the host state to ensure a well-organized and better event is delivered.
And that's it on sports news. But before we go, once again, after being under Boko Haram's siege for over 48 hours, a mass exodus is taking place in Gaidam community in Gombe State that was attacked last Friday. Although the military says it has repelled the attack, killing over 20 insurgents, recovered one Toyota truck and arms from them. Residents told Channels Television that the insurgents hoisted their flag, preaching house to house their ideologies. They're calling on the federal government to, as a matter of urgency, deploy more troops to recapture the community as lives of remaining residents are at stake. And the main news again, gunmen today attacked a church in Kaduna State where they killed a medical doctor, abducted 4 worshippers and injured 1 person. Minor community in Borno State was also attacked by Boko Haram insurgents, while some policemen and customs officials were killed in River State. That's it on the news at 10 tonight. Thanks for watching. I'm Amarachi Ubani. Good night.